Top 10 tricks used by FBI profilers in serial killer interviews. Since Netflix discharged its famous arrangement, Mindhunter, there has been a recharged interest with criminal profiling. The lead characters are inexactly founded on genuine specialists John E. Douglas and Robert K. Ressler. Their exploration helps nearby police in centering their examination to help draw out the relentless killer. Following a capture, they utilize a specific system to uncover the sequential executioner's actual character, so this can be in plain view during the preliminary. Douglas and Ressler were the main criminal profilers to talk with probably the most famous sequential executioners in history, including Edmund Kemper, David Berkowitz, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Donald Harvey, and Gary Ridgway. Interviewing sequential executioners requires numerous long periods of preparing and ideally a brain research degree. Be that as it may, there are a few hints the specialists have shared throughout the years about how to get inside the psyche of a sequential executioner. In their own words, in the event that you need to comprehend the craftsman, you need to take a gander at the work of art. 10. Never go in blind. When managing the absolute, generally brutal and complex characters on the planet, the way to taking advantage of a meeting is broad readiness. Before talking the sequential executioner, each case record must be examined completely and the person's wrongdoings considered intensively. There are no two sequential executioners who are precisely the same, notwithstanding how comparative a portion of their violations may have all the earmarks of being. In The Killer Across the Table by John E. Douglas and Mark Olshaker, the resigned specialist clarifies, the guilty parties we've analyzed were all executioners, yet they were all unique. Each executioner and predator spoke to numerous layers of unpretentious distinctions. There are various reasons why a sequential executioner would consent to converse with a specialist. Some of them appreciate taking an interest in their very own mental investigation minds. Some are law requirement buffs and appreciate being around police. Some accept that in collaborating with the operators they may get exceptional treatment. Some desire for a much-needed reprieve from ordinary jail life, and for others they essentially appreciate describing their lethal dreams in frightful subtleties. 9. Play to their ego. Perhaps the fastest approaches to get a sequential executioner to open up about their terrible wrongdoings is to play to their sense of self. A significant number of these hoodlums have a lacking superego, which implies they endure little uneasiness. They are viciously forceful and regularly savage in their criminal conduct. They will likewise no doubt have a low resting heartbeat, which permits them to carry out such impossible wrongdoings and afterward plunk down with their accomplice for supper the next night as though nothing happened. So how might you convince a criminal who is profoundly utilitarian in high constrained circumstances to at long last lower their defenses? Play to their inner self, obviously. Robin Dreeke is accountable for the Federal Bureau of Investigation's tip-top counterintelligence behavioral analysis program. He suggests not contradicting any feeling and to make it about them. Dreeke further clarifies, approve each sentiment non-critically. On the off chance that you don't occur to concur, basically ask, that is an interesting, quick, keen conclusion, would you mind helping me see how you concocted it? Again, their cerebrum will compensate them on different levels for this. 8. Put yourself in the position of the hunter. Criminal profiling resembles taking a shot at a mind-boggling puzzle, trying to comprehend the wrongdoing and the individual who perpetrated it. On the off chance that you need to settle this riddle productively, it is suggested by the specialists that you place yourself in the outlook of the hunter. If you are awkward with envisioning yourself as a sequential executioner, at that point envision yourself as a lion on the Serengeti plain. There is a crowd of eland and you are searching for inconspicuous indications of shortcoming, focusing on those vulnerabilities to figure out which of the group will turn into your next casualty. This is a similar way numerous sequential executioners chase their latent capacity prey. It's in the rush of the chase itself that inspires them. In Mindhunter, Inside the FBI Elite Serial Crime Unit by John E. Douglas and Mark Olshaker, Douglas states, I need to place myself in the situation of the aggressor, to think as he might suspect, to design alongside him, to comprehend, feel his satisfaction right then and there out of his life where his repressed dreams work out as expected and he is at long last in charge, totally ready to control and overwhelm another person. I need to stroll from that executioner's point of view, as well. 7. Never write anything down. One of the most troublesome obstructions directing a meeting with sequential executioners can bring, is these discussions can last somewhere in the range of 2 to 6 hours and you can't record anything. There is additionally a 57-page report that should be finished after the discussion is finished so the criminal profile can later be built. In this way, an extraordinary memory is positively required for the job. Douglas learned right off the bat in the meetings that recording subjects will keep them in stuck guarded mode. He stated, "I won't play a recording device. So what you see on TV, possibly in the show Mindhunter, which depends on me, they're going in with these huge recording devices. We did that at first, and it truly turns them off. Since you're managing extremely suspicious people, as a result of where they are currently, what their identity is, for well-being they would prefer not to be seen as a snitch." Adding, "In case you're taping it, they're thinking, who's going to be hearing this tape? In case you're composing notes, they're thinking, for what reason would you say you are composing notes? 6. Sometimes you have to come down to their sinister level. When conversing with sequential executioners you may need to bring down yourself to their evil level so as to pick up their trust." Richard Speck was a mass killer who deliberately butchered 7 understudy medical caretakers at the South Chicago Community Hospital in 1966. He miscalculated the quantity of casualties and one of the medical caretakers had the option to stow away until he left. 2 days following the homicides, Speck endeavored to slit his own wrists, and while being treated at the emergency clinic a specialist perceived his "destined to raise hell" tattoo, which had been referenced by the survivor. During Speck's meeting with Douglas and Ressler, the executioner chose not to co-work and rather disregard both of the operators. Douglas at that point changed strategy and talked about Speck as though he wasn't in the room. He went to an instructor and stated, "He removed 8 bits of ass from all of us. You imagine that is reasonable?" Speck at that point ended his quietness and giggled, "You all are insane. It must be an almost negligible difference, isolates you from me." He at that point opened up to the operators with more data about his violations. 5. Learn how to cut through the BS. While talking with sequential executioners you don't need most of your time squandered regarding the matter. Turning a lot of deceives feed their own self-image. Particularly as the criminal profile itself should be an exact knowledge into their own brain and inspirations. In spite of a large number of these hoodlums being met while they are waiting for capital punishment, they will in any case endeavor to control the circumstance by adorning an occasion that they have played again and again as far as they could tell. So, sequential executioners are frequently complete fantasists. In the late spring of 1976, David, child of Sam, Berkowitz shot and murdered 6 individuals in and around New York City. Berkowitz guaranteed his neighbor's canine named Sam was controlled by a 3,000-year-old evil presence that constrained him to execute. In any case, during his meeting with Douglas, he wasn't getting it. When Berkowitz related the ownership story, Douglas let him know, "Hello, David, knock off the horse crap. The pooch had nothing to do with it." Berkowitz snickered and gestured and concurred the specialist was correct, which implied they had the option to proceed onward to the genuine rousing variables behind the violations. 4. Don't ask them to feel remorse or guilt. The capacity that the vast majority of us ethically composed people have is to feel bothered when we witness the pain or enduring of someone else. We ought to likewise feel sufficiently moved to plan something for lighten that individual's affliction. There is psychological compassion, which is the capacity to comprehend what others are feeling, and passionate sympathy where you feel what they're feeling. Many sequential executioners comprehend someone else is bothered, they perceive the dread, they simply don't feel moved to react other than with ruthless conduct. This permits them to exploit the sorrowful youngster who has been isolated from their folks or the little youngster who is strolling home alone. When they have acted intuitively as a predator, it is close to difficult to get some information about their crimes. Mary Ellen O'Toole and Elisa Bowman in their book, Risky Instincts, How Gut Instincts Betray Us express, asking an insane person what regret or blame feels like will resemble asking a man what it feels like to be pregnant. It is an encounter they have never had. In the event that you continue getting some information about their sentiments, for example, what is your opinion about those victims, they'll become bothered. They see feelings as issues, not something worth having. 3. Set your body language as if you are on a date. Non-verbal communication is 55% of correspondence as per late details. In this way, in a meeting domain, how you hold yourself is critical. Numerous sequential executioners are caused to feel as good as feasible for the meeting procedure, which can take numerous hours. They will frequently have their sleeves and chains evacuated before sitting down. Your non-verbal communication ought to be set as though you are out on the town, confronting the individual. Arms ought not be crossed, keep eye-to-eye connection, have a casual voice, and have your feet confronting advances. It is additionally suggested that words like executing, murder, and assault are likewise kept away from, as this can flip the sequential executioner once more into guarded mode. Another tip is you should situate yourself so you are admiring the sequential executioner. Douglas suggests, I would be gazing toward him somewhat all through the meeting. I needed to give him that one mental edge of feeling better than me. 2. Stand guard of your own mind. Sequential executioners are frequently exceptionally manipulative people who can peruse individuals all around to know precisely how to get under their skin. In Whoever Fights Monsters, Ressler composes that almost everybody in his unit succumbed to situational stress, and numerous specialists quit profiling following a couple of years in view of the terrible bad dreams they suffered around evening time. He additionally reviews how he saw one operator fall under the spell of an unfeeling executioner who he'd gave bureau-created data so as to help the killer's allure against his own capital punishment. Ressler suggests soundness in your very own life will help stay away from these controllers assuming responsibility for your emotions. Douglas likewise clarified, you're managing the survivors of rough violations, which is sincerely painful, and you're conversing with the individuals that propagate the wrongdoings, who truly could think less about the people in question. And afterward, you're leading a meeting with them as though there's nothing amiss with the person. You may even demonstrate that you have compassion toward him when you truly don't. Be that as it may, you need to do this acting. 1. Never go into an interview alone. Edmund Kemper was named by specialists as a characteristic conceived executioner, as he stood 6 feet 9 inches tall and gauged in excess of 300 pounds. He offered Douglas and Ressler numerous significant, and extremely alarming, bits of knowledge into the psyche of a debased killer. Ressler talked with Kemper again, however this time the operator was distant from everyone else. Toward the finish of the 4-hour talk with Ressler squeezed the call catch to flag the gatekeeper, however no one came. After 15 minutes, he squeezed the call button again, and this time Kemper got on the operator's nervousness. Kemper let him know, in the event that I went apeshit in here you'd be in a difficult situation. I could screw your head off and place it on the table to meet the guard. An anguishing 30 minutes passed where Kemper and Ressler both attempted to command the other in a skirmish of words. Ressler told the sequential executioner there would be outcomes in the event that he slaughtered a FBI operator, and Kemper jeered, what might they do, remove my TV benefits? Finally, when the watchman opened the entryway, Kemper told the shaken specialist, you realize I was simply joking, don't you? Ressler made a significant note never to direct a meeting all alone again.